Hey, Mr. B.
Hi.
Following up on our last video, I know we said we're going to do some longer, more explanatory videos about the new proposals, but our Facebook comments have gone crazy, and I wanted to just go over some of the frequently asked or commented things.
Okay, let's go.
Let's start with mortgage, credit card, car finance. Are they considered debts, and would it cause delay in settlement?
No, it wouldn't. Mortgages or credit cards or car finance, those are your private issues. When they're talking about litigation debts, when they're talking about NHS debts, those are the kind of debts we're talking about. So if you have, for example, done a judicial review application and your application was refused and you were told to pay the Secretary of State's fees and you haven't paid those and those remain outstanding, that's a debt, that's a litigation debt. For example, if you've had NHS treatment when you were not entitled to free NHS treatment and that remains an outstanding debt, then that would be considered a debt. What you need to understand and what everybody needs to understand, I saw, I kind of glanced through some of those comments, there were so many of them. But when people are answering questions and people start having debates on it, some people over there really need to go to sleep and wake up completely refreshed and have their brains erased, and so that they can download some new memories, because they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. But they come on a public forum and start talking like they know stuff, and then of course they mislead other people as well. And of course it's very, very difficult for me to start answering all those questions. But debt means debt owed to the government. It's not going to be your private. Otherwise, I have a car on finance, I have credit cards, I have a mortgage. I mean, come on, when you start looking at that, then nobody would be able to do that.
Okay, let's move on to child benefits or the free 15-hour childcare. Are they considered benefits?
Child benefit is benefits in the realm of the public funds. So when you have been told that you have no recourse to public funds, then that means you cannot have child benefit. If you've had child benefit, that means you've had public funds. But that 15-hour or 30-hour childcare that you get, those are public services. Those are not public funds. So public services are different. And if you are getting 15 hours child support or this kind of help, then that is not going to be considered a child benefit, public funds.
Are doctors, nurses, or teachers exempt?
I think so, because when we're looking at that, when we're looking at what the Secretary of State has announced, it said very clearly, the excerpt said very clearly that those in public services like doctors and nurses are going to be exempt from this, and they will continue to qualify after 5 years.
Okay, within the context of the new proposals, do criminal records expire or do they stay there forever?
Criminal matters, what you need to understand about criminal matters, there used to be in the immigration circles, in the immigration applications for nationality as well as for ILR applications, there used to be a very clear structure under the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act 1974, where it said if you've done this or your sentence was a custodial or non-custodial sentence, it will be a spent conviction after this period of time, or it will become a spent conviction after 5 years or 3 years or 7 years, whatever. Now what they've done is, if you've got a criminal conviction, you will be your application will be considered in light of that criminal conviction, no matter when it was. So it's not about it stays on your record. It may not be on your record. It may not be classified as a conviction which is not yet spent. But when a caseworker is considering your case, if there is a criminal conviction, they could say this goes to your good character requirement and still refuse you. We've dealt with a case recently where somebody had a criminal conviction in 2006 or 2007, and that conviction was less than the sentence was less than 12 months, and still in 2025 their naturalization application was refused on the basis that they did not consider them a person of good character, even though the conviction was almost 19 years ago.
Okay, moving on, this is quite a common theme. What about those who came on student visa, later switched to skilled worker? Would the new proposals apply to them?
Well, the way it has to be seen is, when we're talking about a skilled worker visa, what I understand from this announcement is where the Secretary of State says everybody who's in the UK today and has not got indefinite leave is going to be subject to these proposals. This is how I understand it. So if you came as a student or you came as a, I don't know, spouse or something, if you are on a skilled worker visa and you're looking at what the skilled worker rules are saying, then this will apply to you. It's as simple as that. It's nothing to do with how you entered the country, whether you entered the country as a skilled worker or not. If you entered as a student or if you entered as any other category, under any other category, as long as you're applying for indefinite leave, the rules will apply to you. This is how it has been worded.
And do the proposals apply in the same way to the dependents of the skilled workers?
Well, the way I would see it is that when you are a dependent, you are following whatever happens to the main applicant. So if the main applicant is going to be granted leave or indefinite leave after 15 years, then that is what I would expect for the rest of the family as well, because they are in line with the main applicant. So yes, that should apply the same way.
Okay. Somebody also said, you were confident that retrospective application of the 10-year rule will be challenged in court. What's changed? And similarly, another comment said, you were so emphatic in your video earlier this year that the rule will not be applied retrospectively. What's changed?
Oh, well, nothing's changed. I'll tell you what it is. First of all, if I have said that I don't think it should be applied retrospectively because it is against human rights and it is against any natural justice principles, then that is my opinion and that remains the same. So when somebody is saying that I was very emphatic that it will not be applied, I am not the Prime Minister, I am not the Parliament, and neither is anybody else out of all of us. So what happens is the government comes up with a proposal, which, by the way, it is still a proposal. Once the government proposals are put into place, they become immigration rules. Those immigration rules are then debated in the Parliament, and that is when it becomes law. When it becomes law, if it is ultra vires, which means that it goes against the spirit of the Constitution, or it is illegal, or there is something wrong about it, then the litigation starts against it. You are not going to start litigating when the Secretary of State has announced on the 20th of November that they are going to bring in these new rules, and on the 24th of November, there should be an answer given by Ali Bukhari on his video saying, this has already been litigated and it has been found that this is wrong. It can't work like that. So you've got to give it some time. And the thing is, you've got to understand these are things which are always going to be happening when there is such a tight and such a narrow understanding of immigration in this country right now. What is happening? The way the narrative is being thrown about is it seems like every immigrant in the country is either taking benefits or taking public funds or is doing something wrong or is doing something illegal or has entered the country illegally. This is the way the narrative is being thrown about. So this is what we need to change. We need to change the viewpoint of the people before you start understanding what the different changes are. Now, these are the kind of changes that are very extreme. Suddenly from 5 years, you're taking somebody to 15 years for indefinite leave or to 10 years for indefinite leave. You're raising the standards, you're raising the income requirements, you're moving the goalposts. Of course, there is a lot wrong with it.
Okay, well, in that same vein, somebody has said, are you supporting it? And they've said, shame on you. Another comment similarly said that they feel that you seem helpless now.
Helpless?
Okay. Are you helpless, Mr. Bukhari?
Well, at this time, I am absolutely helpless, just like every other lawyer is, because there is no law to challenge. Please, kidneys, let's use kidneys, right? Those people obviously have kidneys up there. So the reason I say that, when you are looking at something, you can't just oppose things for the sake of opposing it. That is what politicians do, and that is the sign of a dead brain. I'm sorry, I will refuse to accept that I have a dead brain. I have a reasonably intelligent brain where I can think, I can decide, I can form opinions, and I can differentiate between what is right and what is wrong.
Critical thinking.
Thank you very much. That is what us lawyers are kind of trained to do. That's the whole point of it. So please, instead of just opposing things for the sake of opposing it, understand why they've come about. If there were 40,000 jobs available and 616,000 people have entered the country, majority of which are not working, majority of which are now draining the public services, of course there is going to be an outcry about it. And I would understand that. But when somebody is a skilled worker, is working properly, is doing whatever he's supposed to be doing, is paying his taxes, is doing everything right, and then the goalpost is moved, of course I am aggrieved. Of course I don't like it. Of course that is somewhere where we should all say something about it. But just saying something about it is not going to do anything. This is where you vote. This is where you go and challenge these matters. So, of course, there will be challenges. This is what I've always said. If there is retrospective legislation, which it seems that this is going to be, how is it retrospective? If today I entered the country on the 24th of November 2025 and I'm told that I can go under this particular route and after 5 years I will get indefinite leave, then that is a promise made to me. Now, when I start on that route and then halfway through, they say, well, hang on a second, we've decided to change that and now it's going to be 10 years or 15 years. Obviously, I will feel aggrieved because I thought I had entered into a promise or a contract of some kind. Now, this comes to where the litigation will take place. Will the government be extending this idea that there was a contract between the government and the skilled worker, or will they say, well, these were rules applicable and these rules can be changed as and when the government wishes? And if that is the case, then both of these viewpoints will go in front of courts. Once the courts decide, then we will know whose ideas are going to prevail. Before then, just saying, oh yes, everything is bad, and I am going to be that. I'm not a politician. I'm a lawyer who's looking at his work, who's looking at his clients. I am right now, the whole day I've spent today, trying to find out what we can do for those people who are now stuck in this kind of loop. So somebody came as a care worker, were promised skilled worker indefinite leave in 5 years, and now they're looking at possibly spending 15 years. Now, what does that mean? That means that their employer has to extend their visas, employer has to continue extending their job, or they have to get a job somewhere else. What happens if they can't get a job? What happens if they can't get a job in the same field? Now, what I'm trying to do is, I was trying to look for what kind of options there could be. Maybe you could retrain towards something else. Maybe you could engage with other recruiters. Maybe you could engage in other kinds of skilled worker visas where you could go. I also saw something which was a very good comment, which you might have seen as well. That was somebody had said that most of the people coming to the UK were highly trained or highly skilled, but they were not able to get better jobs, and the only jobs that they were getting were as carers. And those are the kind of people that are stuck there. So if permission is granted to them to work freely, then they would be able to get much better jobs and earn much better.
Yeah.
Well, that is where you're misinformed. Now, those who like that comment will probably say, well, what is he doing? Then they'll start kind of hating me. Please allow me to explain this first. The reason I say that, when you're applying for a skilled worker visa, you are applying on the basis of the job available and on the basis of your qualifications and your experience and your skill matching that job. If you're applying only for a care worker visa, that is what you're getting. If you're not getting a better job, for example, somebody's a nurse and they've applied as a carer because they can't find a job as a nurse, then that doesn't mean that the system is flawed. The problem is you went for the wrong category. And if you go for the wrong category and then you suffer the consequences, you can't blame anybody else. This is the unfortunate, harsh truth of where we are. So those people who are better skilled, who are better qualified, but still came in as carers and now are stuck in those roles, what I would say to them, immediately look for a better role on the basis of your qualifications. Even if you have to go back to your country, go and get the right qualification or get the right whatever goals you need to achieve for that. Do that, and then you could apply for the correct job and come back. And if you can't find a job here to come back to, because the UK market is really, really tight and really, really distressing right now, the entire world is open. This is what we have been talking about for the past 1 year. When I talk about Riverstone Legal, what am I talking about? We're talking about citizenship planning. We're talking about, and now more than ever, it becomes important. Because those people who are not willing to spend 15 years living in the UK, hand to mouth, looking for and begging for jobs, there are better options for them available. Now, it all depends on your qualifications, on the kind of finance you have available, on the kind of skills you have. All of those things put together, there could be other options available. And that is now what we are going to have to do.
I think people who aren't here yet really want to come here, and the people who are here really want to leave.
Absolutely, that is what's happened in the last few years, in the last decade or so. Things have gone down, and those things which used to look very nice from outside still look nice from outside, but when you're living here, you actually see how difficult it is, especially for immigrants who do not have highly skilled jobs or highly paid jobs. So when you're put on that kind of trajectory that suddenly you had plans for 5 years and now you're looking at 15 years, you have to think again. So this is why I say this is not the end of the world. This is not the end of the line. You if you left your countries, you left to come to the UK not because the weather is beautiful or because you get the best curry here. The reason you came here was because you thought you will have a good economic future. You'll have good benefits in the sense that you will be a citizen of a country eventually, which is respected. Now, if that is not happening for you, that doesn't mean this is the end of the world. There are other places you can go to and you can still earn a good living, have a good lifestyle, possibly even a better quality of life.
That's very clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.